So I'm back with more Cuphead, this time continuing the Lobber only challenge into the DLC, the first boss of which is the Moonshine Mob. This first phase is quite chaotic, but luckily it's no more chaotic than it is with any other shot, and the same goes for the second phase. This third phase is where Lobber first starts to become a problem. Even shots like Chaser and Crackshot struggle to hit the boss during this phase, so obviously with Lobber it's a lot worse. The only spot where you can deal decent damage to the boss is the top platform on the opposite side of the screen, but it's extremely hard to dodge the police and mobster battle ball things from over there. Next we've got my favorite DLC boss, Glumstone the Giant, and this guy's first two phases go by like a breeze with Lobber with no major issues. But then we reach this phase, and my progress through the fight grinds to an absolute halt. What is normally a 20 or so second shock factor phase easily becomes longer than the previous two combined. The Lobber absolutely sucks at hitting this witch thing or whatever it's supposed to be. You can only do it while standing directly underneath them and jumping. Even on 300% speed, this fight looks like it drags on forever. Next up is More Time or Freeze, and although dealing with the ISO guys does really suck with Lobber, luckily it's pretty much the worst thing this fight has to offer. Lobber is able to hit the boss in phase 2 and 3 about as consistently as most other shots for once, and although it struggles against the popsicle things, walking under or around them wasn't as much of a problem as I was anticipating. The last ingredient we need to collect is the pineapple mint from the Howling Aces, and obtaining it with Lobber isn't that terrible. It's not able to deal with the fire hydrants that consistently, but luckily this phase is over pretty fast. The Lobber was surprisingly decent at dealing with the dogs, even though this last one took me a slightly embarrassing amount of time to kill. Lobber can hit the boss perfectly fine in this phase, but missing this super caused it to drag on for about twice as long as it normally does. And with that, we have one final boss. But this one would end up taking more time than every other DLC boss and the Phantom Express combined. The footage you're seeing right now is sped up to not 1000, not 2000, not 3000 or 4000, but 5000%. I was planning on showing a super time lapse here of all three of my sessions trying to beat this boss, but in order to show it in a reasonable amount of time, I'd have to speed the footage up to well over 10,000%, which caused Premiere to lag way too much. So instead I'll skip ahead to my winning attempt. I wouldn't exactly say Lobber is completely unusable on this fight, but I would say that this is easily the hardest boss in Cuphead regardless of what shot you use. when I pause the game here, I'm actually considering calling it for the day, but I decide I might as well finish this attempt, even though 2 damage is a lot to take on the first phase. Lobber isn't that bad on the second phase, even though it's still quite difficult, like every phase in Chef's Saltbaker. I'm obviously wasting a lot of cards by not using them on this guy, but hitting him with Lobber is not that bad, and I want to save my super for the last phase. But even with a super, Lobber makes this phase the longest of them all, even though it has a fraction of the health of the other. So I've done it. I've beaten every boss in Cuphead with only the Lobber. Okay, well there is one other quote-unquote boss, if you can call it that. It has some elements of a boss, like a starting animation and a death card, but is missing others like a start card and a grading screen. There are good arguments for both sides, but for the sake of this challenge, no. Fuck this unnamed thing. Lobber on this is an absolute nightmare, pun intended. Lobber can only hit this thing when you're standing directly underneath it, but the damage only counts if you're dealing it to the devil, and when you're standing that close to the devil, there's no room to dodge the fireballs. Even with 5 HP and this thing's pitiful amount of health, I had no attempt where I made it past halfway. So that's going to do it for this series. I also wanted to do a bit of a community post here about upcoming channel content, because you don't unlock actual community posts until you reach like 200 subs or something crazy. So I've got 3 videos I'm working on right now, those being Cuphead Converge only, as well as Hollow Knight Pacifist Percent, and one I'm planning on titling something like A Hunt for Good Steam New Releases, looking for like the next Amok Runner or something like that. I've also got a lot of videos that I want to record, but don't really have the file size for, like Elden Ring, all bosses Ash of War only, or both Red Dead and Hollow Knight, no damage. So I might end up live streaming one of those. And I also might do some more Lego Scooby-Doo stuff. Probably not trying to reclaim my 80% record, because that category is kind of miserable. But I was thinking about trying to do 100% or like a 80% speedrun tutorial. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.